Next time you're in Dollar Tree, head on over to their Crafter Square section and grab you some of their little coasters. We're going to be transforming these into some wall decor. I know. Just listen, roll on with me. Trust me here. And to do that, I'm going to be using some of my TDS Creative Dry Rub-On transfers. You could absolutely use a stamp for this idea and use whatever transfers you would like. This is just what I'm going to be using for my project. I actually had a bunch of ideas for this, and one was to create a cohesive collection with a bunch of these little pieces, but I only came across this one set at Dollar Tree, so this is one of the ideas. You'll probably see the other ones in other Dollar Tree videos coming up. I went with less is more for this idea. Absolutely add as many transfers as you would like. I kept mine simple, which I feel like helped add that high-end look. Now, I'm going to add some rope around the edge, and this is some black rope that I had in my stash. You could use twine, you could use the nautical rope, and paint your towel if you would like. This is just what I chose to go with. Now, I do recommend not just using hot glue. You want to use a glue that is going to hold on to whatever you're wrapping around your tile. And this stuff works really well, and it starts to dry pretty quick too, so it helps to hold on to what you're wrapping around the towel. So I did leave some gaps so I could smush a little bit of hot glue in there to get a quick hold, because while that quick and thick was drying decently fast, I needed something that was going to make sure that rope did not move, and adding the hot glue in those tiny spots around the towel was going to allow that to happen. When I got to the edge, I left just enough to create a hook effect at the top and then bring the other edge to touch to where it looked like it was one piece. I used a little bit of hot glue to get that immediate attachment, and then once it dried, I came back in and dusted a little bit of that quick and thick right around the area to make sure once it's hung on the wall that the piece doesn't break off. And then I did the same thing for our other tile. Now, before I get questions in the comments like, Brandy, why didn't you paint it? Did you put a paint on here? Did you put a sealer on here? No, I didn't do any of those things, but you could. If you wanted to paint your ceramic tiles, I recommend using a multi-surface paint. And if you want to put a sealer over here, like some Mod Podge, you absolutely could. But as you see, these turned out just amazing by applying a transfer right on to the ceramic. And if you want to put sealer over top of your transfers, you can absolutely do that. Even if they're not TDS creative, sealer on transfers will work just fine. I am always on a hunt for Dollar Tree's large craft wood pieces whenever I head into that store. Personally, on a mission to come up with as many DIYs as I can for these big joints right here. We're going to be turning these two pieces into a set of rustic greenery decor holders. That's what I'm calling them anyhow. These are really rough around the edges. A lot of their craft wood is. So I always recommend, bringing on in the sander and at least knocking off the little bits that are like dangling off the piece. I don't always sand down the edges because sometimes I like the roughness. Anyhow, we're gonna also need some stamps for this piece. And I brought out my little stamp bin. A lot of the pieces that I own are Crafter Square pieces from Dollar Tree, and one of the pieces that we're gonna be using are from Dollar Tree. Now people, why can I never find the little clear thing that we attach these to? I don't know where it hides. I don't know where it goes. I have bought several of them. I don't know where they are. And I just recently cleaned, so I am sure I've hid them from myself until 2027. Anyhow, first I'm going to take my TDS stamper. A lot of things I've been hand making, I've been stamping on the back. And then we're gonna grab our little teeny tiny Dollar Tree stamp piece and give it a little ink, and then we're going to gingerly place some little stamp marks on our wood pieces. Okay, I did not do them the same for this. Okay, I did not do them the same on each piece. You can get as crafty as you would like. I also found these words. This is not a Dollar Tree stamp. I don't know what one this was, but this was just kind of laying in my bin somewhere. And I took some of the words and I put in different spots, again, on each one of our wood pieces. And then I allowed these to completely dry and then brought on in some antique Waverly wax. Absolutely use whatever technique you would like to apply your wax. I wanted this one a little heavy, so I grabbed my TDS 3-inch nylon brush and I applied a nice thick layer all over both pieces. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself, Brandy, why would you stamp and then stain? It's just stain art, people. It's just an idea. You get as creative as you would like with this. I'm using a little bit of water from my bottle, giving a little spritzy spritz, and it just thins it out enough that it moves around easier. And because I did not sand down the edges, the water helps that wax get in the edges so much easier than just the thick wax, antique wax itself. Staining rough edges can be a pain if you don't have a thin base. Those pores getting in there, it is just not the easiest thing. So water does help it seep in there, and it makes the stain look even around the edges, matching up more with that rustic look that you've applied all over your piece that doesn't have the rough spots. I hope that makes sense. I did the same exact thing for our other piece, and I allowed these to dry overnight. Once they were dry, you could see those beautiful little stamps shining through. You can get really creative with this and use different color ink pads as well. The look really is unique and helps you create fun custom home decor. Now I'm going to add some of Dollar Tree's nautical rope to the top and the bottom of both of these pieces to be able to hold our greenery into place. And I am chinchy with my nautical rope, y'all, so I like cut this up and shred it. I know that sounds wild, but listen, sometimes you gotta figure out how to stretch them pennies, and this is just one of those ways that I do that. Literally will take one little section of that 3-piece rope and I will break it on down into many. When I was all done that, it was time for me to pick my greenery. Absolutely use whatever you would like, and then bring on in our wire cutters so we could snip off as many. I'm just gonna snip off 2. Okay, I'm just gonna snip off 2. Really it's 4 because I want 2 for each piece. You guys, are you following me? Anyhow, I'm going to take the nautical rope pieces that we shred down, okay, and we're going to wrap it 3 times on the bottom and then 2 times on the top. Obviously, wrap your piece. You can use twine for this, ribbon, whatever you would like. Wrap it as many times as you would like. I want it more at the bottom and less at the top, and then I just tied it in the back. If you want to glue yours down, staple yours down, do you. I will support all of the things. This is just how I wanted to do it in case it wanted to be changed out, throughout the seasons, whatever. And then we're just going to take our 2 little greenery pieces and shove right down in the center. For staging, I just decided to use them as tabletop pieces. I put one on top of a candle pillar. If you want to put some hangers on the back of these and pop them on the wall, that would also look amazing too. There are always a ton of glass pieces at Dollar Tree to DIY with, and I wanted to keep it really simple, something you could just add to these and pop them in your home and it look amazing, like some lace. You'd use whatever kind of lace you would like. I picked this up off of a friend, Nerd Shock Repop, over on Whatnot, and have been dying to use some of the lace. I got a bunch of it actually, but we're gonna also use a little bit of twine I have from Dollar Tree on the wine glass stem. Now I do want to show you a couple little things if you guys go to attach material to glass, okay? There are some how-tos that I think would make your life a little bit easier. One, if you want it to look high-end, don't tie a knot at the bottom, okay? I do this often with projects because I don't want to glue things down, but on glass, it looks wonky, okay? So don't do that. Next, use a glue you can trust it works with glass. I'm gonna be using Type On Quick and Thick. This stuff works good with glass. It works good with a bunch of different materials, but what I like it for is it dries fairly quick. So when you're using a material, a lot of times you tend to grab for a glue gun. And here's the thing, I don't care what you watch on this platform. In your own home, grab a piece of glass, grab the hot glue gun, just put a little smoosh on that glass, I bet it pops right off, because that's been my experience all the years I've been crafting. Like, it doesn't hold, people. It doesn't hold. The hot glue doesn't stick to glass. I am not sure who it's sticking for, but it never has ever once stuck for me. Anytime I just use hot glue, whatever I put that glass on, it pops off. Absolutely, it does not work. So, but don't take my word for it, okay? Try it yourself. Let me know. Come back to the comments. Give me your opinion. Now, I noticed as I was swirling this up, that Type On Quick and Thick was already drying, y'all. It was already drying. So I had to stop and add a little bit more. And it's really important as you're doing this, you're keeping it tight and you don't have too much glue, because your fingers are going to get sticky and then you're going to put prints all over the glass. Now, with something like this, you can easily take a dotting tool and scrape those little smudges off if that happens. But for some people, that is just a pain, and I'm trying to help you avoid it. Okay, so don't use too much. You don't need too much. We just need enough to smush it around a thin layer where we're putting the twine. And since it already started drying where I stopped, I put a little bit over the twine, so as we continued to wrap, it just connected with the last section that was attached. I hope that makes sense. Now, people, when you get to your very last row, you know, where the rope is gonna come to a stop, you're gonna have the urge to grab the hot glue. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just let it stick to where it stops, okay, because it's gonna dry. You'll notice there might be a little bit of excess hanging off. That's fine. Just snip that sucker right on off of there, okay, and then grab a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit, and smoosh right around those top little layers and that edge piece. Put that Type On there and then just let it dry. And literally in a couple minutes, this was attached and on here, no time at all. I didn't even wait for it to dry before adding the lace topper, okay? There's so many different ways you could get crafty with fabric on glass, and adding twine and using lace for accents. It's really, really, really a fun, creative, quick way to add a little something into your home. You can do as many wine glasses as you would like. Dollar Tree people, have you been in Dollar Tree? You know all the glass pieces of there's so many, okay? I wanted to do 2 different ones just so you guys could see it, that you could create a cohesive collection using different glasses, but just with the lace to still give you a look that matches in your home. And for the little pillar, this is a candle piece. I just added the Quick and Thick right at the bottom and attached the lace all around the bottom, and that was it for that one. Again, took me maybe 2 minutes. The Type On Quick and Thick makes it really easy to work with fabric on glass because of how tacky it is and how quick it's drying. I added a little bit of moss inside of the candle piece, and I didn't add anything in the wine glass, just to give you guys a visual to see how awesome it looks adding a little something inside, and how beautiful it looks just leaving it alone on the outside. Have you seen these beautiful frames at Dollar Tree? Well, I haven't, since I picked them up, and I grabbed like 5. So this is my first time using one. But I have a really cool idea to turn this into a home decor piece, displaying brooches. I know. Listen, just hold on. Roll on with me. First up, I'm removing all the innards because we're not going to need that right now. And I want to paint our frame. If you want to leave yours, you can go right ahead. I'm going to be taking some of my DIY paint and putting a layer on top of this frame. If you have never used DIY paint before, I am a huge fan. I like DIY paint and Waverly, and I use Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs as my DIY retailer. I usually keep her link down in my description box for anyone interested. Use whatever paintbrush you would like to apply your paint. I'm going to be using my TDS Creative 3-inch nylon brush, and I like this brush especially for something tedious like this because it has all them holes, and the nylon bristles allow you to really smoosh swirl and all the things to get that paint down in those little tiny pain in the butt spots to paint. While that was off drying, I grabbed some fabric. Now there's a couple ways you can go about putting a pillow. That's what we're doing. We're kind of creating a pillow in the center where you would put a picture. Okay, I've done this before with, you know, cotton or whatever, like trying to shove it up in there. I feel like fabric works best. You could use any type of fabric. This is just some vintage stuff I had in my stash from an estate sale, and I'm just cutting it down to size to match the frame. Okay, match the frame that we have here. I'm not gluing anything down either. You can glue it down if you want. And then I'm grabbing some burlap. You could grab another color of fabric, okay? Get as creative as you want with this idea. I'm just rolling with burlap because I think it would look good with the paint color that I chose along with our pretty brooch that we're gonna pop in here, okay? Now I'm cutting this down to size as well to be a little bit larger than the frame. So this way it goes inside as we put our little plastic hooks, hangers, whatever you want to call it, back in our frame section. Okay, and a little tip, people, if you try to do this with a metal frame, it's going to be more difficult than one of the Dollar Tree plastic frames because of the hooks that are on the back. Okay, these are plastic, they maneuver a little bit easier. Now take this idea, remix it however you would like, people, but I am in love with vintage brooches. I picked these up from Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs on the Whatnot platform. She sells vintage jewelry and stunning vintage jewelry. If you guys are not hanging out with her or me, I resell Whatnot as well. I don't do jewelry, but oh my gosh, I am always stalking her jewelry shows for beautiful pieces like that. You don't have to wear them. You can use them as decor. You can fit them in with, how pretty would this look on a beautiful bouquet of flowers with, like, oh my God. I have ideas, okay? I'm going to be getting more, but look at the people. Look how absolutely timeless this is. And I used some pink depression glass and a little pink rose that I had to just kind of accent, pull those colors out of this brooch. So beautiful. For this candle holder, we're going to be needing one of Dollar Tree's mason jars. I mean, technically we're going to need two, but we're just going to use one. We really need two because we need the lid. We need two lids to create this look. And then we're going to smush them together on top of one another like this, but not before. I mean, you can glue both of them, but we're just going to glue one of them. I'm going to use Titebond Quick and Thick and put a little bit around the rim on two different sides. You can put as much as you want, but it's been my experience, a little goes a long way with this stuff. And just, you know, so you guys can see what's happening here, we're going to take one of Dollar Tree's candles and it fits perfectly in the top of this lid. Look at that. Okay, I got more ideas for this, but right now we're going to be decoupaging my TDS Creative napkin, Verdant Lace, on to this candle to go on top of our candle mason jar holder that we're creating. First, I got started by trimming the napkin down to size, giving just a little bit of napkin on the top and the bottom of our piece. That way we have room for error. And then I am tearing around the edges. The design is not going to meet up and be flawless. So after so many designs and creating straight lines, I have realized that if I fray it and then as I'm overlapping the napkin in the back, it looks a little bit more flawless. Once our mason jar lid was dry, I grabbed some of my Waverly ink chalk paint and applied a layer to both of the pieces all around the top and on the one right in the center area where our candle can sit, because you'll see, you know, the top lid. I didn't bother painting the under half of the piece that's going to be attached to the mason jar. Once they were dry, I then applied a nice layer of Titebond Quick and Thick onto the top of the one that we attached to the mason jar and then pressed down our other piece. Moving that to the side so they could dry for a couple hours while I decoupage this pretty candle. We're going to need some parchment paper for this. Not wax paper, people. Parchment paper. Okay, parchment paper. And it doesn't matter if you use the silky. I don't know that there is a silky or flat matte side. People ask. I feel like they look the same. Doesn't matter what side. Okay. Then we're going to remove the sneaky layers off of my napkin. They are 3-ply, so make sure you remove both of the sneaky layers here because we're just going to be applying the top layer. Then I like to take a second and make sure we have about a 1/2 inch of give, in case mistakes can be made. Okay, so we have that on the top and the bottom, and apply our parchment paper. A lot of people can tape theirs down or will tape theirs down. If you want to, go right ahead. I usually don't. I like to be able to move mine and rub my candle down as the paper starts to, or the napkin starts to, stick. And that's just how I roll on with creating this type of decoupage art. You guys absolutely use whatever techniques work best for you. And I do not like iron. In case you were going to ask, why don't you use iron? It's just not my thing. I like the heat gun, and I will hold it, and it can get hot, so be careful you don't burn yourselves. Okay, now how can you tell if it's working? You will be able to see that the napkin starts to look translucent. That's because that wax has started to seep up through the pores in the napkin and melt onto the candle. And the piece that isn't translucent will have like a white hue on that side. Okay, then you continue the process till you have it all around the candle. When I get to the edges, now I was cutting these straight for many years. I've been doing this for a hot minute now. I've been cutting them straight, and I have found that if your pattern does not line up in the back of your candle, that if you fray the edge, okay, when you get to the edge, you just do a thin little layer of overlap with the napkin, and it will help it be difficult to see where one section starts and one section ends. I like to take an X-Acto knife and cut the top and the bottom. That's what the excess is for, and it helps the candle look like it's store-bought instead of something you DIY'd in your home. Now, a little tip: if you notice there are some sections at the top where you may have messed up trimming out your napkin, do not worry. Take the heat gun to it. That's all you're going to do. And the wax is going to be manipulable at that point, and you're just going to take your thumb or your whatever finger. You see me take my thumb, and I'm just rubbing it over and smoothing it out, and that is it. When this was all done, I placed it right on top of our little Dollar Tree mason jar candle holder, and I kept the inside of the mason jar really simple and just applied some sprigs of bits. I don't even know. Floral bits, greenery. I don't know. It's not greenery, but inside of our piece, you could absolutely put some lights in there. That would look amazing too. If you're looking for more Dollar Tree inspiration, check out this video right here. And as always, people, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in checking out any of the TDS creative products you see me use in this video, check out thediystruggle.com. Until next time.